spiked out. I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.
Founder and CEO?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hey, it's Jason Calacanis. It is Friday. Is it Memorial Day, Tyler? Is this Memorial or Labor Day? I get that wrong.
Memorial.
Memorial comes first.
Yes.
Labor Day comes next.
Correct.
It's Memorial Day, 2010. Mm-hmm. I slept 2 hours last night. You can see the bags under my eyes. These are my actual non-CGI produced bags under my eyes. I look like Mike Arrington, actually. I slept about 2 hours last night, and then I flew on Virgin here, and I am exhausted, but I'm going to power through the show because we got a great guest. We got a great Ask Jason, and we got a great Shark Tank. You're working on the, I left you here to work on some projects. How did everything go when I was gone in my absence?
Great.
Everything's going well?
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything I need to know about? Nothing?
No, how was Disrupt?
TechCrunch Disrupt. I talked to Mike about it, and Mike said to me it wasn't as good without, us involved. I think it was two-thirds. It felt like it was about 60%, two-thirds, CEOs of existing companies or panel discussions, and that is not what TechCrunch 50 was about. Obviously, it was about the companies, and they had only 20 people who presented. So the field was smaller, so a little bit weaker, I would say, than a TechCrunch 50. I would say of the 20 companies who presented, maybe the top half would have gotten into the TechCrunch 50. And then of those 10, they probably, I don't know if any of them would have been top 10 in the TechCrunch 50. They would have been sort of midfield of a TechCrunch 50. Weren't as prepared on stage, which is to be expected since you and I did the preparation for that stuff, so it was the first time out. But they did get great keynotes and whatnot. The location was unique. Some people hated it, some people loved it. So I'd say that was a jump ball. And the crowd was pretty good. It was a pretty good crowd. A lot of young people. And so good success for them. And obviously the launch conference in the winter of 2011, which we're doing, will be much better. But I'm not competitive at all. It's not like people are going to compare what he does and what I do after we break up to see who did a better job. Right. I'm on total tilt about that.
It's not like you like a challenge or anything.
No. Now it's like absolutely my mission. I'm like, oh, Mike, and then, so of course I'm there, and everybody wants to know what happened to TechCrunch 50. And so I explained it to everybody. Like, Mike had a different version of what our partnership should be, and he came up with a really novel business model for it. Instead of being 50-50 partners, I would give my 50% to him for nothing, and then I would become 10% of the revenue share, and he'd become 90%, which is a very fascinating revenue model for partners to go through. But so we dissolved it, and then we each went off to do our own things. And I think he was very magnanimous about it. He told me at a dinner party later, after the conference was over, that the conference wasn't as good without us being there, and that it was definitely a little bit of energy that was missing. But Eric Schoenfeld did a great job moderating, hosting, and sort of Paul Carr. So those guys really stepped up. And it was great to see everybody in New York. I got to see all the angel investments that were involved in. Chartbeat doing great. GDGT doing great. Postabon doing very well, actually. And Challenge Post totally rocking it. So I got to see almost everybody. And today, Tim Young is with us. Welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
Tim, you are the founder and CEO of Socialcast.
That's right.
Which is a really interesting startup doing sort of business-to-business enterprise class social tools, I guess?
Yeah, it's kind of lightweight real-time collaboration for employees.
Yeah, that's a nice way to say it. And it's actually, there was a couple of buzzwords in there, but it actually was coherent. Usually if there's too many buzzwords, you start to lose, but it's lightweight. Create a group. We're going to get into that later. But at the top of the show, we always like to do a nice call-in. And we do Ask Jason, so let's do one. Skype in, or are they calling in? Okay, do we have our caller?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing? Who's
Hi.
on the line?
My name is Fu Yi from Germany. How are you doing?
Fu Yi from Germany. And I see, I could tell from your name, Fu Yi, obviously Germany.
Right. Cool.
No. You're Germany via China?
I came
Taiwan?
I'm born and raised in Malaysia, and I'm doing my studies in Germany.
Ah, okay, very good. So you have a question for us. Let's hear it.
Yes, that's correct. So am not the expert computer scientist here. So what I've been doing is that basically I tend to look around for projects and maybe try to build on other people's projects because I have a little bit of skill in game design, so to speak, but I don't have the computer science skills needed to create a game engine, for example. So I've been like looking around the internet and found that there are several game engines that are interesting, but they kind of lack these social features. For example, like virality loops in Facebook or Twitter, for example. So my idea is like, can I maybe build on top of this like open source game engines and maybe like probably make a profit out of it? Do you think it's a good idea to do that? Because all these game engines are basically open sourced, and when I build on top of that, I have to release the source code. So do you think in a business sense this is it a good way to go forward?
It's definitely a good idea if you're looking to get hired. If you're looking to make a product that people are willing to pay for, maybe not so much. You would have to, because you're building off of an open source project, it's share and share alike, so to speak. They give you their source code, you build on it, and you have to give your source code to everybody else. That being said, just having the source code is not enough for a lot of people. They want to have the person who built it. They want to have some consulting. They want some services. They may want some specialization. So a great way for a developer to get themselves out there is to get into the IRC chat room for a specific piece of software. Maybe it's Cassandra, or maybe it's Django, whatever, and to actually contribute code and to build little projects. So in the Django project, there's 10 different people who built blog platforms on top of it because people kept complaining there's no blogging software. Or somebody complains there's no game mechanics or virtual currency or point system on top of this gaming thing. It's a great idea. And that's actually one of the best ways for you to meet people who are in the industry. But you got to couple it with being in that IRC and maybe having a little blog and a Twitter account dedicated to these topics so that you can sort of virally spread what you're doing. And also participating maybe in Hacker News when those type of threads come up and mention, hey, say something intelligent, and at the end say, oh, and if you're interested, I'm working on a project if anybody wants to contribute. So you're not sort of spamming it like, check out my project. You're adding to the discussion and then adding that. Tim, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just view it as a learning experience. Open source platforms, to try to build a closed platform on top of it will be really difficult. So I would try to view it as a learning for yourself, but also, like you said, Jason, to meet other people and basically to hook into that community. Yeah,
I mean, this is what open source is about. This is why most people do it. There's been many studies, and a lot of people misinterpret why people are involved in open source projects. They say, oh my God, people are involved in an open source project because they want to help the world, and oh my God, there's altruism. It's not exactly always that case. A lot of times people are looking to network, to socialize, to find a job, to participate in something challenging. It's not really like they're trying to save the world in most cases. They usually have some combination of self-interest, and community interest. They want to get a job, and they know the community will help them. They want to learn, and the community will help them, so they help the community. So it's sort of like one hand washes the other, and it's great. It would be the equivalent of contributing to a blog that was an unpaid blog, or posting really good comments on Hacker News, or posting really good comments on in an IRC chat room, or a question and answer service, Stack Overflow, or whatever. You get your name known. Make sure you use a memorable handle. So if you were working on Cassandra, you could make yourself, Cassandra guy. And it sounds corny, but if you were, or you could be DB guy or something, whatever it is. NoSQL guy or Mrs. NoSQL, whatever it is. But brand yourself a little bit in there so people can go, oh, that guy's got the same domain name as his handle. He's got a logo. Sort of personal branding on top of it will help. Does that help?
Yeah, cool. Great.
Okay, Fu, have you been listening to the show for a long time, Fu?
Yeah, I've listened to 20 to 25 episodes so far.
Oh, wow. So you're working backwards through the archive?
Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now.
Right.
So, by the way, I was at TechCrunch 50, and I saw you guys in San Francisco last year. So
great. Well, make sure you come to the launch conference. We'll have information on that hopefully next week, Tyler. Should have the date locked down, and hopefully you can make it. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, Fu.
Great. Take care. Bye.
That's it. It's quick. There's over 200 people listening to this on Ustream. There'll be 150,000 people who download it. Some good advice. Very simple, basic stuff. But if you're new to the industry, how would you know that?
Yeah, this is a perfect forum for this.
Yeah, so these little nuggets that people don't know about. But you know what people all know about? DNA Mail, DNA Mail. Everybody loves DNA Mail. They've been a sponsor of the show from the beginning. You like the segue?
I love it.
You guys don't have like some exchange server sitting in your office, do you?
We don't, but we actually are a DNA Mail customer.
What?
Yeah, we
Not
are.
a setup.
This is not a setup.
So you have DNA Mail. How long have you been using DNA Mail?
So we have been using it for about 6 months.
And how's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our customers have Exchange servers, so it's great for us to be able to, instead of having one locally and dealing with all that, and us having to have an administrator.
Patches, viruses, memory, hard drives.
Exactly. I can have another engineer instead of an ops guy,
Right.
and DNA Mail takes care of all that for us.
For $3 a month, you get in there. Why do I even do a commercial? I got a customer here who's totally satisfied. You know what you need to do. Just get over there and get that 99.9% uptime guarantee. Thank you, DNA Mail, for sponsoring This Week in Startups and being one of our most loyal sponsors from the beginning, which is a big deal because now the ads, you know, Tyler, have doubled in price. And so we're basically like somewhat freezing the rates for the existing sponsors. It's actually holding the show back on a financial basis, but we got to be loyal. This is an important lesson for people if you have advertisers. I can't double the rates or triple the rates. Basically, the advertising rate has tripled since DNA Mail and WebSpy and all these guys got involved, and we're just charging them like 10% extra now. And everybody else is in line. We got like 10 people in line waiting to sponsor the show. So thank you to DNA Mail, and we really appreciate it. So the next part of the show, somebody's going to pitch us an idea. You get pitched ideas sometimes.
Yep.
You've done a couple companies.
Couple, yeah.
This is your second, I think, or third?
Yeah, this is essentially the third company.
Third company.
Yeah.
You've pitched people before, so you
Definitely.
understand what a good pitch is. You've had bad pitch days, maybe?
Probably a couple.
Ever have a VC pull out a BlackBerry while you're in the middle of talking about the product in your company?
Maybe one time, yeah. I mean, it's definitely
Infuriating? Shocking?
Typically, not necessarily shocking. I kind of come accustomed to that behavior. But typically when there's more than one in the room, one guy will have something better to do. Yeah.
Deplorable. I did this at the Open Angel conference, Tyler. You remember the Open Angel Forum. I had to tell people, like, please do not take your BlackBerry out when somebody's pitching their idea for only 5 or 6 minutes. Give them your attention because this is their whole life. And you're a VC, you're supposed to be supporting these guys. Just put the BlackBerry down and turn off the power if you have to. 5 minutes. Give them your goddamn attention.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to do right now on Shark Tank. Do we have our Shark Tank picture?
I need money. What I want, that's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. What I want. That's what I want.
All right. Now we're going to get on the pitch train. Who do I have on the call?
Hello?
Hello. Who's there?
Hi, my name's Scott Annan from Network Hippo.
From Network Hippo. Scott, have you listened to the program before?
Of course, yep.
You got a favorite show?
Probably the one with Brad Feld. The whole discussion around contacts and how you manage your contacts is especially interesting to me.
Yeah, he's quite good at that. And so you know the rules of Shark Tank then, since you've been a long-time listener. You have 60 seconds, and we can see you there right on your Skype. You're looking good. Got the chapeau.
Yep.
You've got the non-ironic beard. Looks good. And you have 60 seconds to pitch your idea, after which point I will ask everybody in the chat room to score both your ability to pitch and the merit of your idea. So everybody in the chat room is ready and will give me a verbal aye, captain, yes, captain, something to that effect. And I would like everybody to put pitch, colon, the number, and then idea, colon, the number. Tyler, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Tim, you ready? You understand the instructions?
Ready. We're good.
2 numbers?
2 numbers.
Okay. And here we go, Scott. In 3, 2, go.
All right, now I'm guessing that's not your desk because I know how many conferences you go to. And when you go to conferences, the one thing you get are dozens and dozens of business cards. And what do you get when you get back? A desk full of business cards. It's a lot of work to put them into some kind of an address book or do something with them. And so the solution many people say is LinkedIn. But the reality is LinkedIn is where relationships go to die. You go and you connect with somebody there, but you don't really follow up with them afterwards. It's just kind of a connection that you use for the next time you're looking for a job or something else. So right now, though, with unemployment rates as high as they are, and people are starting their own gigs, they're looking for new jobs, our networks are becoming increasingly important. And social networks have helped us connect with more people all over the world, but not necessarily have stronger relationships with them. So Network Hippo is a layer, a social layer that goes on top of all your social connections in your email. It consolidates all of your contacts, helps you understand your relationships, tells you who you should be in contact, when you should be in contact with them, and then helps you engage with people in your network much better than you can on individual social relationships.
Wow. Okay. Well done. I'll ask everybody in the chat room, give me 1 to 10 on the pitch, and give me 1 to 10 on the idea. I see 6 and 6. I see 3 and 2. I see 7 and 4. I see 6 and 7. 6 and 4. 8 and 3. Tyler, what did you think of the pitch?
I'm gonna go 6-5, leaning towards 7.
On the pitch?
Yes.
Felt it was concise, clear, what?
I did. In some ways, I really liked the tone and the delivery, and he struck me as a smart guy.
Yes.
But when you're talking about this kind of a solution, you're going to have to really get into quickly how you're differentiating. And
So now you're getting towards the idea.
right.
And so the idea?
I would like to know more.
Right. So that's a successful pitch in some ways. Tim?
So I would give it maybe a 6-5 in that range. And
On the pitch.
On the pitch. I think what I would do differently is start with what it is. Because there's a lot of build-up of the problem, explaining the problem, and lead in with exactly what it is so it kind of frames in my mind what I'm thinking about, and then give me 1 or 2 quick use cases on how it could help my life.
Right. So if you have a minute, you're saying maybe 40 seconds of setting the stage is a little too much to leave 20 seconds to what the product is. And on the product score?
On the product score,
A layer on top of all of your networks?
I mean, if it could actually do that, I would use it. Probably give it a 7 or an 8 on the idea.
Right. Okay. So I thought the pitch is going to be quite repetitive here. It took about 40 seconds to get into what exactly is you're building. I did like, though, your pace was good.
Yeah.
So if this was a 2-minute pitch and the second minute was, here's all your product things, this could be a 10 and a 10. We don't know, so you left us wanting more, which is good, actually, in some ways. You had a great line in there. LinkedIn is where relationships go to die. When you said that, everybody just sort of nodded in agreement. That's a good thing to put into your pitch, I think. When you have a universal truth that people can agree on, I agree with that. I go on LinkedIn, I say yes to everybody who's asked for a relationship, and then I don't go back until I need to hire somebody for a job. But it's basically like there's no vibrancy to those relationships for whatever reason. You said that networks are very important, especially in a down economy, people starting their own gigs. Again, more truisms. And so we're all nodding. And then you say, hey, this is going to be a layer on top of all of your networks. And immediately I thought, Plaxo, maybe? Something like that. So tell us now that and I'll give you my scores. I think the pitch, 6-7 pitch is good. I mean, I would say if I got 15 seconds about more specifically what the product was, this could be an 8 or a 9 pitch. So that's good news. And the idea, I love this idea. We had a company called Reportive pitch at the Open Angel Forum, which is doing sort of CRM on top of your Gmail account. So you can sort of find out, I think they use Rapleaf to go query and find out, oh, Tyler at mahalo.com emailed you. Here's his page on, here's information from his other pages, his Crunchbase profile, this profile, that profile, Facebook if it's public. So what exactly is the product? Is it software? Is it a toolbar? Is it a web service? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a website. And so when you connect on the website, then you connect your account to all of your social networks as well as your email. And then we consolidate all of those contacts. We understand the different relationships. We find out more information about their profile. And then we look at your communication trends, how often you communicate with different people, look at their profiles, and then give them essentially a rating. and then send you weekly reports on who you should be in contact with more often, people you may be connecting to your extended network that you weren't aware of. So really help you manage your larger network.
I think I understand what you're doing, and I guess the proof would be in the pudding. So we'll have to go check it out. But I see that that you actually have the site up and running. How long has the site been around?
So we actually launched at demo, I guess 2 months ago. And so we're still in early stages. We've got all the scaffoldings in place. We've got several thousand users that are on there giving us great feedback right now. And, now we're just trying to get kind of the usability and the overall system complete. But the intelligence engine we've been working on now for a couple of years.
Got it. And this is a venture-backed startup?
It's not. No, it's bootstrapped. So we've built this small team, and we're now at a stage where we're actually looking for angel investment. We're not looking for any large investment, but we think we've got the opportunity. We see where this needs to go, but we just need some funding right now.
So you say that you launched a demo. Did you do like the 1 minute launch thing or like the full 5-6 minute launch thing?
No, we did the full thing.
So you paid $18,500 to present there? They gave you a discount. They usually do.
Well, yeah, we presented there. They made it affordable for a bootstrap company.
Ah, so how would you get half off?
I'm not really allowed to say any more than that. Just say that it was worthwhile for us, and it was a great opportunity to meet a lot of good people.
Next time, don't pay to pitch. I got an issue with that. You come to the launch conference or TechCrunch Disrupt or something where you don't have to pay to pitch. Any other thoughts on the idea? I'm going to try it. You sold me. I'm definitely going to try it. I like these kind of ideas. Now, if you go log into Facebook and take all my contacts out of there, doesn't that make Facebook shut down my account?
No, not at all. So we don't actually take all of your contacts. We just connect with Facebook. So we use the API just to be able to understand your kind of social graph. And then when you log back in, then you connect with the same information. So we don't store the information in our system.
You can't go in there and take the contact information of my network out of there on Facebook because they don't allow that with their API, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're not Plaxo, right? So this is your private address book. So this is Jason's address book that is on speed, right? So we take all of your different contacts. We do similar things, a report of. We find out more information about those people. But this is a private for you only. This is all of your address book. And then from there, we enable you to do a lot of things like CRM, all the things you get from Adaptive or a Salesforce. We connect with things like MailChimp, Zendesk. So it's perfect for the entrepreneur, small business, or somebody who really cares about their network.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to check it out. And I see Tim nodding. He's probably going to check it out.
I'll be checking it out.
He's going to be checking it out. Well done. You did a good job.
Great. Thank you very much.
Cheers. He did a good job. Everything but paying for pitching. I never get when people do that. But this is what infuriates me. It's like I go make all these shows where people don't have to pay to pitch, and they still go do it.
It's the trap.
You know what the problem is? I have to do like an event the day before demo and the day after demo.
Yep.
Should we do that? Oh my God, I just had the greatest idea. We should, wherever they do their event, we should do one day before and the one day after a free event to pitch.
Yeah.
And then that would be like total annihilation of their business. If we said day before and day after demo, oh my God, that's pretty genius, isn't it?
Where's the event at?
The same hotel.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Ballroom across the hall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're saying do it concurrently?
Not necessarily concurrent, day before, but literally as close as possible.
Yeah, same hotel. What's the chance the hotel's booked the next 2 days? It's not going to be booked. Then I could just say to people with a straight face, if you're going to demo, I have a demo the day after. It's going to be cheaper, better, stronger, faster. That would be hysterical. Should we do that and just totally destroy their business? This is the kind of guerrilla, aggressive, like thinking that goes through my mind with competitors. And it's not that I wish anybody any harm. And I tried to explain this to somebody because ComScore, I don't know if you saw, made their service free.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the second row when they make this announcement. And last week the CMO came to me and said, hey, I want to talk to you about this thing. So she was here. I shook hands with her. We had a nice conversation. She said, you were right when you said ComScore kills babies, or whatever I said. No, I didn't say kills babies. I think they kill puppies and serve them in the cafeteria. I say ComScore is a racket charging you $5,000 to correct your numbers. You felt that way too, right, when you saw that nonsense?
No reason to pay for that.
Yeah, I mean, you got Quantcast for free, and also it's sort of like just the nefarious like we have the power to fix these wrong numbers, and when you give us the check, they magically become fixed, and they're just like, oh no, but it's not because of the check. The check just happens to come the moment before they're fixed. That's you reading into that correlation. Anyway, you know what she said to me? She said, you know what, Jason, you were right. And it created massive discussion inside of our company. And we're going to change it. And so they went out, they changed it. So somebody, of course, asked, why did you change this? Why now? You know what his answer was? Nobody gives me credit. He says, it would be so easy for him to say, on stage, the guy should have just said, listen, the marketplace, guys like Jason, other people, they made a convincing argument, and we listened. You know?
Which is what happened.
Which is what happened.
Right.
Or I pushed them to the edge where they had no choice but to.
Which is what actually anybody who was paying attention knows that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole audience is realizing this because whoever Eric Schoenfeld mentions, I was there, and he says, well, we wanted to make sure the system was robust enough to handle the people, and we're going to be rolling it out slowly. It's just a total non-answer, and it's like Zuckerberg's apology. Like such a non-apology, and I never get any credit. All I want is some credit, but you know who doesn't need any credit is WebSpy. WebSpy, they monitor all kinds of server activity, from employee internet access to email service to web hosts, analyze for traffic levels, patterns, errors, and more. It's a total log analysis solution. And these logs pick up all activity. And it's not about blocking stuff. They're not there to block stuff. It's so you understand what's going on your network. You got a network with a lot of activity on it. You need to know what's going on. You have a big network. You want to know what's going on. Somebody might be loading a bunch of BitTorrent. Somebody might be doing stupid stuff at work. We had a thing here where we had everybody was watching the show at their desks, and we're trying to figure out why are we having problems with Ustream. Well, when 25 people are downloading directly from Ustream the show at 1 megabit or 800 kilobits, and then we're trying to upload the show at a megabit, well, that could be a problem, right? And so this is the kind of thing that WebSpy will solve for you. Go check them out. Jack is going to, I think he's going to run the Startup Meetup on June 8th.
Oh, that'd be cool.
In Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And he was on the show back on episode
31.
31, was it? It was a great guest. So thank you to WebSpy. My next guest, Tim Young, is the founder and CEO of Socialcast. I found out about your product because some people here at Mahalo invited me, and I'm pulling it up on my screen right here, to Mahalo's Socialcast network. And basically, we have a thing called vertical managers. These are the people who, there's like 15 of them, they work from home, but they manage the other writers. Yeah. So they need to have a conversation with each other, but emails, they have an email list, but it's a little bit messy. And they don't want everybody else involved in the thing, so they just want to have like their own little area to socialize and network. And sure enough, they create a site. What do you call it? A community?
Community, yeah.
A community inside of your product. And holy cow, as you can see here, they sort of live in it now. And I looked at it and I said, this is like a private, white-labeled version of Facebook. Is that what it is? Is that what you've built here? What have you built?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. So what we built is really kind of a real-time collaboration platform for employees of companies. So it's private, but it's very, very lightweight. And the focus is around that news feed concept or that activity stream concept. So, if you look at kind of the web today, you start to see that a lot of people's experiences are beginning on a Twitter stream, a Facebook news feed. And so we thought, hey, these streams are essentially digitizing all of human culture, right? Where I am on Foursquare, what I'm doing. Let's do that for corporations.
That's what archaeologists are going to look at 100 years from now. They're going to look at our stream and figure out like
where you were, what you were eating, everything, right? Or your kids.
Imagine if we had this about like, I don't know, who's a famous person? Teddy Roosevelt or, Jesus. If we had Jesus's Go Wallet check-ins, or Blippi purchases.
What? Somebody's got to do a fake profile like next Easter and do the whole process.
Yeah, exactly.
Checking.
They should. Jesus could be checking at the.
pilot.
Yeah,
Pontius
of course.
Pilate.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be funny.
Just you gotta watch out where what's his name is checking in.
Right.
Judas. Judas has some interesting check-ins over at the temple. So you were saying?
Yeah, so I mean, what we wanted to do is take this activity stream concept and essentially bring it into corporations and help them kind of digitize, all the culture and all the events that go on. So although I don't think you guys hook it up, a lot of our customers will actually hook up the activity streams to business systems in their company. So their SAP, their CRM, and as events and activities take place in those, they come into the real-time feeds.
So that would be if we sign a client.
Right.
It says Mahalo has signed, Acme Corporation as a client.
Exactly.
For this amount. Click here to see the insertion order.
Exactly. And so then you can actually have employees kind of do session-based collaboration within context of events and activities in real time.
So there's a press mention of Mahalo Answers or Calicanis or whatever. It shoots it into there, and people can just automatically start talking about it.
They can start discussing it. What should we do? How should we respond? All within there.
So the obvious comparable would be Yammer. Similar to Yammer. Yammer's sort of the Twitter, white label Twitter, and your white label Facebook.
Somewhat,
is that a way to think of it?
I mean, I think for the way we look at the kind of the problem today is we think it's a lot bigger than just kind of Twitter for the enterprise, right? So if you look at like the last 100 years, we've kind of had this industrial age. We're now moving to information age, kind of atoms to bits, right? And so the big challenge right now is human intelligence, right? I think it's something that you figured out quickly at Mahalo. Yeah. Instead of doing algorithmic-based stuff, you can do Mahalo Answers, human intelligence, right? So the real trick is how, if that's the most challenging resource a company has, how do we build these, different tools? And it's not just conversation, but it's collaborating within context of data that's going on.
See, that makes sense because in the past, you would have these conversations occurring in meetings. You'd have these conversations occurring by the coffee machine, on the way to the Starbucks, and it's lost and gone forever. Now, somebody new comes into the company, and they click on the client Acme, and they go see every single discussion around Acme, and they find out, oh my God, this client is really unique in the way they liked their reporting done, and my God, this person over there is a very unique individual who's a pain in the ass.
Right.
I'm not going to say her name, but everybody knows the pain in the ass over at Acme Ventures, whatever, Acme, whoever. Somebody's like right now, oh my God, I can't believe he said that about the Acme Ventures. There's going to be some company called Acme Ventures, my luck.
Sure.
And so it's actually a way to sort of catch, it's like this, like catching all these things that are in the ether. You would lose them otherwise.
Totally. You're trying to capture all these insights. And so if you've ever been in a job and you're new to the job, you come in and you're supposed to just immediately kind of get up to speed, go to meetings, get all these processes, but they don't give you your predecessor's email account usually with all his emails and who did he talk to and his Excel sheets. You got to recreate all that from scratch. So these systems, when we're kind of digitizing all of this work culture, you can actually go back and look at all the conversations that person had in context to the customers and really get up to speed, in a real quick amount of time.
Have people figured out how to use these things yet? Because I know when it was about 5 years ago when wikis came out, right? It's 2003, 2004, 2005, maybe 2004, 2005. Social Text, right, is doing wikis. It's going to change every business. Then PB Wiki, nice guys. MediaWiki obviously is available. People start doing hosting of that, and every company's got to have a wiki.
Yeah.
And then most companies, they never actually got them to become actual productivity tools.
Right.
And then there was the one that was bought by Google. What was the wiki that was bought by Google?
Oh, that was JotSpot, I think.
JotSpot got bought by them. You never heard from that again.
Nope.
So what did they do with JotSpot? They just kill it?
It came back out as part of Google Apps. It's like Google Sites, I think.
Oh, it's Google Sites, JotSpot?
Yeah, I think Google Sites
so then
was
they did
JotSpot.
Actually, so I like Google
But it didn't
Sites.
come back out as JotSpot and all the stuff, right? Yeah.
So do people actually know how to use these things, or are we still like in the sort of early innings? Because that's what I'm finding with these social tools is like inside the enterprise, there's like this sort of group of people who are really geeks and into it, they know how to use it.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is just like, I'm just too confused.
Well, I think we're in the first inning.
Yeah.
I think that, these social tools have definitely hit mainstream in the consumer space, right? So outside of work, they've hit mass appeal. Sure. And they are quickly changing how we communicate. And so more and more people inside work are expecting those same tools and are using them. I think there's still a portion of the workforce that is not as familiar with them. But once you introduce them, they quickly take to it. And the idea is, a wiki is really difficult if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have to curate it. You got to monitor the content. You don't really know if it's aged. So the idea
you actually don't even know what's going on. I mean, you got to go to like a change log to see what new pages were built.
And there's like wiki syntax, and there's like all kinds of weird characters you got to input to like make something bold.
Tilde, tilde, tilde.
Yeah.
to sign something,
Yeah.
I type something, you type something. Who knows who typed it?
Exactly.
You can't build that into the wiki, no.
No.
No, too difficult.
So the idea is to wiki is just essentially just an improvement of documents, right?
Right.
And I think, what our point of view is moving forward is that it's really not about documents anymore. It's about, real-time interactions. And if you make it really lightweight and simple, one box, share things, there's a little intelligence in there. So if you paste a YouTube link, it automatically brings in the video.
Sure.
If you paste images, all that, people will take to it. And then you also add device mobility, right? So you bring it on mobile devices, you bring it in their Outlook client, you bring it to them rather than force them to go to your place.
How does it make money?
So we basically, our main clients are large enterprises. And you can either deploy it as a premium SaaS version, so you're paying for per user per month, or you can buy server licenses and run it in your own data center or even on something like AWS if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
So you actually are not forcing people to be part of the hosted solution.
That's
They
correct.
can buy the software from you. What is the ballpark to buy the software? Is it by the number of users or number of servers? How do you price something like that? Because that's pretty old school, isn't it?
Okay, so it's old school, but it's a new take on it. So what we've done is we've built a software appliance. So, like let's say you're going to do a Google search appliance for your company, you actually get a physical rack server.
Right.
You got to put it in a network. What we give you is essentially, we're leveraging all of the virtualization of companies' data centers. So we give you like a 1 gigabyte server image, you download that, then you bring that up in your VMware or your Citrix or your Zen environment, and then it's virtualized. So if you look at companies today, they have built out their data centers for peak capacity, but only use all that capacity like 3 to 5% of the time.
Right.
Otherwise, they just got machines just burning through energy.
Right.
So if you can give them a solution that'll run on that, they can use up some of that capacity. And
they want to do that. They want to screw around with the software. Is that like a corporate policy kind of a thing? Like, wow, we don't want this data is so important, we can't have it in the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are certain industries, right? Defense, government, finance, healthcare.
Oh, the people who actually have a lot of money.
Yeah, and they're super regulated, right?
Yeah.
And they might be healthcare, like one of our clients, Humana. So they have patient data. It's very critical that is not outside their network. Right. And they're also connecting this to business systems. So they've spent 10, 20 years building business systems, putting a firewall around it, all their accounting, their customer records. So they want that secure. So I think in the future, SaaS is the trajectory that everyone will go to.
And so people who don't know, software as a service.
Correct.
You don't buy your own hardware. You don't build your own cloud.
Right. We host it for you.
We host it for you. You never have to worry about upgrading the memory and the storage or whatever.
Exactly. But for companies who have really sensitive IP or have not warmed up to letting other companies host their data, we allow them the same product and flexibility, but they can manage it internally.
And that starts at like 50 grand or something?
It's around there, yeah. That's a good ballpark.
So this is actually, you can make money.
We are making money.
Yeah. And so largest installation? Largest installations?
So, Philips, global company.
Wow.
About 116,000 employees. And these are all, when we go in, other kind of social solutions are very kind of ad hoc, bottom-up driven. And a lot of ours start that way. But our big component of the business is where we go in, we work with the CIO, we work with HR, and it's a full enterprise deployment. So it's a layer across all their systems, to all their people. So you'll have a company like Avaya, right, a telecom, or a Humana, or Philips, which is doing a global rollout, 116,000 employees all over the world.
How do they break up the networks? Because, if you had one network for 115,000 people, it's going to be moving down.
It's fast.
And there's nothing to I really need to see some department that's making light bulbs when I'm in the department that makes speakers.
Right.
So how do you do that?
So we like to think about it as kind of if you use Google Maps, right? So think about Google Maps interface. You can zoom all the way out and see the Earth, right? And then you can zoom in and see a continent, and then countries, and then cities, and then all the way down to like the hot dog vendor on the street corner, right?
Right.
And we have kind of the same approach, and that's how these large enterprises use it. So a user can basically zoom out and look at the entire network, all the activity, which in these large companies is moving very rapidly, or they can actually zoom in, right? So they can go in, they can create their own groups, they can look at their department, their job function, geography.
So you have to put in some sort of hierarchy of groups that rolls up probably at some point to geography.
Yeah, I mean, we
companies.
also connect to their Active Directory,
Right.
which manages all of their user accounts and all their email and their location.
How do you handle the security on that stuff? Because I mean, obviously, the people who are in finance and HR don't want those departments, so you have to put like permissions. And
Yeah, so
does
we
that typically
yeah.
model the active server directory or something, or do they have to?
No, so we just inherit the permissions and the role model that's already in that system, and it's mirrored inside Socialcast.
So, looking at this and saying this is like Facebook for Enterprise is actually not giving you guys enough credit. I mean, this is much more sophisticated than that. It may look like the Facebook front end, but what you've done is basically built a very sophisticated, layered, permission-based system for larger enterprises that just uses a very familiar metaphor.
Yeah, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, the familiar metaphor is very intentional. Instead of trying, I mean, we're trying to create a kind of, there is this consumerization of IT, right? And so we're trying to provide an interface and keep that interface constant. So if you're an employee and you deal with 3 to 4 enterprise systems, you no longer have to like get a lot of training on those and education and deal with them. You have one familiar interface that looks very similar to what you do outside of work.
So this means World of Warcraft will actually be the next metaphor?
Well, I've said I think somebody should do a Zynga for the enterprise, and I really do think that's a huge opportunity, and there may be people working on it, I don't know.
So unpack that a bit. You're basically saying use some casual gaming metaphor to accomplish some task inside of the enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, think about a lot of this, material resource planning or how you manage inventory fulfillment in the warehouse. There are these really archaic software. It's a bunch of numbers. It's blue screens. It's green screens. It's not exciting. You don't feel very productive when you're doing it. But imagine if you, just like we're doing with a newsfeed layer, right? What if you actually took a gaming layer on top of that?
Sure.
And so, you're buying plants, you're purchasing new cows, and that's actually, moving trucks or, starting and stopping inventory processes. But, let's, make it so that it's an enjoyable experience for those employees, right? And I think there's a lot of things we can do with game mechanics to basically improve the experience and improve productivity.
This game mechanics thing, we had Booyah on last week, and they do My Town.
Yeah.
Is this going a little bit too far? I mean, they basically, Foursquare and Gowalla obviously have game mechanics in them. But then to layer an entire game on top of it, or what you're talking about doing, taking real work and putting a game on top of it. I mean, how far is this game thing going to go, do you think? Is it endless, or are people going to get burnt out on like, okay, I get it, I have to plant things, I get resources, and then I can deploy the resources, and then I level up? Are people going to just realize that they're being gamed at some point? Or are just humans not that sophisticated?
Well, I don't know if it's that question. I think it's where people find personal enjoyment, right? And imagine if you work just kind of an 8 to 5 job all day, it's not super challenging. You come home and you want something fun, and guess what? You're on Facebook. You can do it with your friends, right? And you can show that you're more successful because you've invested more in your farm and things like that. And it's no different than I think how a lot of people spend money on other things that they're just deriving happiness and enjoyment from.
Like drugs.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
That's not the metaphor you're going for.
Yeah, that's
you're going
not
for the
what I'm
metaphor
going for.
of like maybe they go play poker.
Exactly.
Or they go play sports.
Right.
Or do something like that. It's a socialization thing, so there's nothing really there. It just feels to me like everything I do, like I'm going to go to a restaurant and I'm going to like try to order a sandwich, and they're going to be like, oh, did you plant your lettuce? And I'm like, okay, I'll plant my lettuce. Like, okay, did you plant your tomatoes? Yes, okay, I want tomatoes. I'm going to plant tomatoes. Now I'm going to harvest them, and then you're going to slice them. Okay, great. It just feels like and I've been playing We Rule. You ever play We Rule on the iPad?
I haven't played
Don't
that.
start. It's going to be like
consider
this as a PSA. Parents, I know you see your children playing Farmville and you got the iPad. Do not start playing We Rule. Because if you do, you will be a 40-year-old harvesting magic asparagus every day at 8 in the morning in order to level up and build your kingdom into a citadel. And that's really not what 40-year-old people should be doing, especially not ones who have a 6-month-old daughter. End of public service announcement. These things are wildly addicting. I mean, people have figured out how to release that like dopamine in people's brains of like, it's pretty amazing. 71 million people on Farmville, and that's like double how many active users Twitter has.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to move to the Valley and get started, in startups, and you're in college, I would become, I think, a psychology major. I think
I was a psych major, yeah.
I think that's one of the backgrounds that companies are going to look at in the future. It's all about understanding the user. It's what we do at Socialcast every day, look at different user personas and how do we, achieve a better experience for all those users.
What's this pumpkin thing you're involved in?
The pumpkin patch.
Well, no, I'm looking at your Crunchbase profile.
Sure.
I was actually looking at Tony Conrad's.
Okay.
And then I see Tony Conrad's involved in a pumpkin head.
Yeah.
Something, and I see it's an angel investment. So I immediately emailed him and said, you're doing a new company and you didn't ask me to angel invest? We had a whole arrangement. I was going to circulate deals with you. And then the one deal that you're actually going to be the CEO of, he says he's going to be the CEO of, he doesn't circulate. So then I'm seeing him next week at Wall Street Journal, and he says he did this with you. What is it?
Well, there's a lot of people that want to know about Pumpkinhead.
I feel like there's a horror film. Was there a horror film called Pumpkinhead? Where did you get this name from?
Some of the team was working on some early concepts. It was last October. I think, I don't know, they were thinking about pumpkins at the time, and it just sounded like a good name for the company. But, this is last summer, a couple of us, myself and Tony, would just hang out kind of after hours, and we were basically looking at the social web. Right, and it's what we do at Socialcast. We look at the consumer web and see how that's impacting the enterprise. And Tony's done a lot of, he's done like StockTwits and WordPress and Sphere. And so, we were just kind of always talking about the state of the social web, right? And we started kind of noodling on a concept, and it kind of became mental floss, I think, for a lot of us outside of our normal jobs, right?
Yeah.
So, and it got kind of more and more interesting. It kind of snowballed, and then. Three of us decided, maybe we should actually try to build this concept. And so we've kind of assembled kind of a really, an all-star team. So it's myself, we have Tony Conrad, who's a partner at True, and he did Sphere, and he's on the board of WordPress. And then Ryan Freitas, who was just really early guy at Adaptive Path, really genius around, kind of social UX and ethnography. And then a guy that worked.
I'm sorry, what was the word you used? Ethnography?
Yeah.
Explain what that means.
So just.
I know what ethnography means. I just wanted to make sure for the audience's benefit.
Yeah, no, just kind of this building of personas and studying people and and then a guy that he worked with really closely at Adaptive Path called Sean Collins as well. And then we've got some just really great kind of tech talent that we pulled in to build this. And so we started kind of building the team, and then we decided. To share kind of what the vision was, and then we've pulled in kind of a list, kind of who's who of investors. So the Pumpkinhead is backed by True Ventures, Ron Conway, Katarina Fag, Chris Dixon.
I know, I saw this list. I'm like, I feel like I'm left out.
Yeah, and a couple former partners.
So it's somewhere in the social space.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the social
enterprise
space.
social thingy.
Wouldn't say enterprise,
okay.
But we've also got some interesting advisors, Chris Sacca, Dick Costello from Twitter.
Yeah.
And basically, there's kind of two trajectories and kind of memes that are really interesting to us. One is personal branding, and the other one is personal analytics. And Pumpkinhead is really kind of at the intersection of those two trajectories.
Right. So game mechanics around how many followers do I have, how many retweets do I have, and all that kind of stuff is going to be my own version of personal Google Analytics. I like it, if that's what it is. Question from the audience. Do you think all of these games are ultimately going to hurt the advancement of our society? Seems like there's a lot of wasted time. That's from R. Crowley. What do you think?
I think people waste a lot of time in many ways. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure that
the wasting of the time is just shifting from one bucket to another?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
There's people who have wasted lives out there. I mean, let's be frank.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly? Oh, half the people I meet, there's like nothing, they get nothing accomplished. I mean, the people who work at startups obviously are accomplishing a lot. I'm talking about the other people. How'd you get started as an entrepreneur?
It's a good question. So, in my family, there's a number of entrepreneurs, and just kind of growing up in that entrepreneurial environment, seeing parents run companies, uncles run companies, the challenges, you just kind of grew up with the notion that I wouldn't work for somebody else. Basically, I would be doing my own thing. So
it just doesn't even come into your conception that you would. It's not even your framework to work for somebody else.
Right. And I think the interesting point when I was younger was just watching family build things, right? So actually build companies, build teams of people, build products, and that kind of building nature, more than even kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I think really embedded itself in kind of who I am. And so in college, basically started different kind of little consulting companies around enterprise data, actually with automotive suppliers. And then shortly after college here, just down the road, started a company called Event Robot, which was kind of what Socialcast grew from. And Event Robot was building a social backbone for the entertainment companies. So our first customer was Universal Music Group, Interscope Records.
You talk about the chat room days, message board kind of days.
This is like fall of 05.
Okay, so
yeah, so our first
Web 2.0.
Yeah, just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like Flickr was hitting the scene, Facebook was just on the scene, and our first customer was Interscope Records with the Pussycat Dolls.
Good get.
And launched their first site. So we had kind of a social backbone, back-end layer, and then the music labels would build their artist sites, their property sites, on top of that layer, and they would do all the front end and all the user stuff, and we did all the back end.
This is to build up like a fan database and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, kind of CRM, but for the music entertainment space.
Huh. And how'd that wind up doing?
Sell
it? Crash? Burn? What?
No, I mean, we basically transitioned that into Socialcast.
You pivoted.
Yeah, we pivoted. That's like a popular word, although.
It is the popular word
It
right
is,
now.
yeah. Gotta have that on
another way
every
to say
show.
it, evolved.
Evolved, yeah.
Another way to say it is you fell on your face and got bloodied up and then got yourself back up and got in the fight.
So we actually didn't get bloodied up.
No.
We actually
Was
did
it
really.
stalled?
No, so I'll give you the story real quick. So I started the company, it was completely bootstrapped. It was myself and another engineer who's still with Socialcast today, and we basically continued to grow it and just grew it on revenues. And then we basically decided that being a service company essentially just really wasn't that exciting. We didn't really like working with the music industry that much, and we really wanted to pivot to be a product company. And so in 08 we made a real shift. We had taken all the money that we had earned from doing that business, invested it directly into Socialcast, and then brought on True Ventures and grew it from there.
I hear a lot of entrepreneurs start in the service-based business. Mm-hmm. Why is that, and what's the difference between running a service-based business on a day-to-day basis versus a product business? Yeah,
so I think, early on, you're doing a lot of, you're on the chase, right? So in a service business, you're out there, you're looking for a client. It's a great way to get started, right? Especially if you're trying to bootstrap something, it's a great way to accelerate it. Especially if you're like a first-time entrepreneur, you don't really necessarily have a visible track record. It's perfect, but you are working directly for somebody else. So a lot of times, what you're actually providing may not end up being what you actually want to build as like a product, right? So it may not totally fit your vision, but you got to look at it as a launch pad, and it's usually a very good launch pad because you're in control of your destiny. But it's something you got to hustle a lot. You got to be chasing the clients. You got to be managing the clients. Collecting checks. Bit of a headache. Yeah, exactly. You got your people paying on time. Product business differs how? Product business, I think early on, especially if it's funded, whether it's by you or you have professional funding, you can kind of really map out the business, I think, kind of long term, and you can really focus, if you're doing software, on product, right? So you can build a team right away. You can go from zero to a small team. And then you can really focus on that product rather than having to deal with customers right up front. Living hand to mouth. Exactly. Month to month, trying to get the money in to pay the next month's rent, the next month's payroll. So how long you've been doing this iteration of the company for a couple of years now? Yeah. You raised the Series B. We just closed our Series B March 31st.
Congratulations on that. $8 million I read or something to that
Yeah,
effect?
it was $8 million.
And Menlo and True Venture stepped up again.
They did. True came back in.
Which is great.
It was a great sign. Love to have them involved.
And so $8 million, it's a lot of money. How many people you have at the company now? What are you going to do with the $8 million?
Yeah, so today, we're hiring people basically on a weekly basis now. We're getting close to 25 folks today. A lot of the investment will be in staff, both in engineering and then in the operations side of the business. So at the goal is at the end of the year we'll basically we're on trajectory to double the company size. So we'll be close to around 50, 55 people at the end of the year. So we're putting money in there, and then a lot in innovation. I mean, there's a lot of different things we can do, a lot of engineering goals that we want to hit.
So is this the first time you've had this many people working for you at a company?
Yeah, my own company, yeah.
So what's it been like, and going from 25 to 55? How do you anticipate things are going to change? What are your advisors telling you to look out for?
Well, I think the biggest thing, that I'm looking at is company culture. Yeah. Myself and a couple of the early engineers, we've been really good at guarding that original culture, which is very people-focused, very team-focused, and a very transparent one. And so I think as we expand, when we went from kind of 0 to 20 employees, a lot of those people came from the early employees, kind of our own social network. So it was people we had worked with at prior companies, people we knew, very known quantities, those new people. I think as we kind of go from 25 to 55, we're starting to recruit people in who are very passionate, excited, but are somewhat unknown quantities. So it's because of the social contract there is a little different with these newer employees. Right. We will definitely have to continue to watch the culture and cultivate it as it grows.
So culture means they have the same what as your original team? Because the original team, you're saying these are friends of yours or friends of friends. They're known quantities. You know they're not total screw-ups, or they share some common DNA.
Sure.
What is the common DNA of your company? Can you describe it in words? Have you had like a culture document, kind of a meeting, and said these are the 5 traits of our people?
Yeah, so we don't actually have a document, although, as we grow larger, that may be something we put together. I think really it's about having the company be transparent. So we've tried to create, and our software creates that, right? We have a very transparent software. It's very open. You put in a message, it can go out to the entire company. And so the idea is really, no closed doors, sharing of information, hiring the most talented people we can, and really cultivating, all of their individual passion, right, and applying that to the problem. We really try to focus on kind of having one beacon, the problem we're focused on, and aligning people into that. So
focus on the problem, a mastery of what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that. That is the number one thing I look at when we hire someone is mastery. It's something I got from a couple guys at Pixar, actually. I think, there's always somebody who graduates last at Harvard. So, I don't know if you can just take on education or even work experience. There's so many unknowns. But the one thing I look for in a new employee is, have they mastered something?
Anything.
Right? It could be,
chess.
Hula hoop. It could be chess, underwater basket weaving, whatever it may be. Because that shows that they can, go from a very novice level and move through to that mastery. And we hope that that is now ingrained in them, and they can apply that into the company.
A little tough question from the audience. I visited the Socialcast HQ during a startup pub crawl. Seemed a little bit boring compared to other startups. Can we get a pitch on why Socialcast is a good place to work? I guess because you're an enterprise company versus consumer facing. Is that an issue in terms of getting employees or not?
Anyone can come by the office. You can knock. We're at 19 South Park in San Francisco. Come by. It's when I think we did the pub crawl, it was not too long after we had moved in, so we were still kind of getting the office organized. It's actually, I think, a great place to work. It's super fun. If you go onto our site, you go to the careers page, we've got shots of the office. It's in an old 1900 brick commercial dishwasher factory originally. Wood floors, totally open, 2 levels. It's just a super fun place.
Yeah. So Is it an issue though? Do you find that great developers care about working at consumer versus, enterprise, B2B versus B2C?
Sure.
As we used to say in the day, can you not get certain people who want to do something public facing so their mom can use it?
I mean, I'm sure there's those people, right? But the way in which we've recruited in the past and found people, the people are just looking at tough problems, right? And when you actually go to a customer and you talk to them, and you sit down and you talk to somebody and they say, you have really fundamentally changed my work experience, and you've changed 10 hours of my day, and how I'm connected to the company, I think that's rewarding to anybody. And that's why a lot of people love to work on it. And at the same time, we're not building Excel, right? We're not building SAP.
Yeah.
We're building something that's fun. We use all the latest JavaScript. We build iPhone clients, an iPad client, BlackBerry. So you get to kind of the excitement of the consumer space, but you actually get to apply it and make a big transformational shift at these companies.
And something that actually makes money.
And we make money, which is a great thing.
A nice thing when you're considering a job, I always tell young, folks who want to go to a job, find out how much money's in the bank account.
It's always a good idea.
How many months of capital do they have? And then you can just say it that easily. I mean, if somebody comes to you when they're joining your company, if I was at an interview and I was like, hey, I'm a little concerned about being at a startup. How many months of capital do you have at your company at the current burn rate? Would you be offended if I asked that?
No.
And what would you tell me? A couple of years? Something like that?
Yeah. I mean, when we did our A round, and then we went to do B round, we hadn't even touched our A round yet.
Yeah.
So, we've got a long
runway.
runway.
Perfectly fine thing to ask.
I think you should.
You should.
I definitely think you should. I mean, you should really know some of the core business fundamentals, before you commit your career to it.
Another question from the chat room that came up over and over again was your academic background. Is there something we should know about?
No.
Where'd you go to school?
So I went to school at UC Riverside.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And you're a teacher now? You do a little professorship or something?
Yeah, so, I didn't do it this year, but in the 2 years past, down at UC Irvine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was a guest lecturer professor.
Huh?
Yeah, down in Orange County at the Paul Merage Business School. And I taught co-taught with John Seeley Brown, who is former head of Xerox PARC and, worked on a lot of early things there. And so I taught there to business school students for a couple years.
Did you enjoy that?
It was a lot of fun. It was fun. Basically we were looking at, the class was called Edge.
Yeah.
And we had people like Dana Boyd come in to speak.
She's great.
Yeah. We had guys from LinkedIn come down. We
Awesome.
And the idea was, how do we help business students, right? Students who are going out and getting MBAs understand these kind of fundamental technology shifts, and how can they be aware of them and all this new technology, so that when they go in as an MBA candidate, right, into these jobs, they can begin to take those transformational shifts to business.
You find those MBAs are good employees or not? Be honest.
Well, we have a number of them.
Right. But do they know? Comparing your MBAs to the non-MBAs, do you feel like when you go into a meeting and there's three of each, that you're looking at one side of the table, not the other, or do they all created equal?
I think it's something to it's another arrow that you have if you have an MBA, right? I don't think that, and I don't have an MBA, but the people who are my friends that have them, I don't think that fully defines them.
Right.
I think for some people they let it define them. I think for other people it is just something else in their utility belt.
I just happen to be an MBA. I got some skills in creating some spreadsheets. I could build a model or something.
Hey, some of that stuff, especially when you look at, if you look at things that are popular now, like Lean Startup, right? Eric Ries and all that stuff, it's all about, a lot of it is not just qualitative, but it's quantitative feedback, right? So it's looking at metrics and analyzing it. We have a new employee, a data scientist who has an MBA that came from Disney and did revenue optimization and ticket sale optimization for Disney, and is incredible at doing data analysis, and adds just an immense amount to the business. So I think there's a lot of value. It just depends on how you want to utilize those skills.
Sometimes they do carry it though. It's a little bit too much.
Then those might not be the right people to work with.
Exactly.
Maybe they belong in other industries.
Entrepreneurs that you look up to, and why?
Yeah, so there's a number of them. A lot of my friends in San Francisco are obviously founders of companies. I definitely love what Matt Mullenweg has done.
Why?
Because I think one, he's a very humble guy, and two, it is a really interesting story, right? And it's somewhat like me. I didn't go to school in the Valley. I didn't really live up there. I came from LA. I was very unknown, and I think he did in very similar ways too. And he was leveraging obviously the open source and really was able to spin it into a company. And now, right, we don't need to go through the story, but amazing story, right?
Yeah, we had him on the show.
And amazing at building community, right,
Yeah.
and understanding community. And I think in many times, if you look at Automatic and WordPress, they haven't necessarily immediately reacted because they've understood what the long-term effects are, and that's worked in their favor, right? So
They're not
definitely
like
love.
Movable Type launching like
Exactly.
Vox or this, or like every
Yeah,
10
just-
minutes they're changing their
They're
product.
not reactive,
Yeah.
right? So they are defining their space and driving it and driving their community and not playing a very reactionary game like Six Apart and others played, and
Right.
we know how those ended up.
Yeah, they're just basically evolving the publishing platform, making it better, and
Yeah,
not like trying to zig and zag every 2 minutes,
exactly.
which is generally not a great idea. Let's bring Lon in for the news. Do we have Lon? Unbelievable. 6 weeks since you broke your foot.
Yeah, and ankle. I broke my foot and my ankle 6 weeks ago, and yeah, the foot's all healed, done. The ankle, there's still a little crack you can see on an X-ray, but they say within a week I can take the boot off.
So even with your horrible lifestyle and all the crazy stuff you do,
all my sloth.
your body can heal in 6 weeks. That is unbelievable.
Very, very rapidly, and I don't know, no physical therapy. Like it healed in
Wow.
alignment. It all
I'm
worked.
happy about that.
Yeah,
that
no,
is
it's great.
incredible.
It really is. It's amazing, especially when you saw how bad it was versus it
Brooks'
now.
foot. He got in a
heard.
fight. He got in a fight with an iPhone.
Trips that slipped on
iPhone
it.
1.
I was talking on my phone, and I just slipped right off a curb and fell and hit the ground.
Steve Jobs will be getting a lawsuit any day now. Let's hear what's in the news.
All right, so lots to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk too much about TechCrunch Disrupt. We have a news article about it. First ever TechCrunch Disrupt conference was in New York City, focused on innovators who are disrupting media and technology. To quote the website, they're turning change into opportunity. Speakers and judges included yourself, Tim Armstrong, Carol Bartz of Yahoo, more about her in a moment, Square founder Jack Dorsey, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Don Dodge, friend of the show, Google advocate reporter David Carr, Steve Case, Ron Conway, and on and on and on and on. 20 new startups presented products. The finalists were Betterment, which is an online investment tracker that links directly to your checking account, Movie Clips, a searchable database of clips from films, Publish2, a comprehensive customized newswire for print publications, UJam, which is a cloud-based platform allowing musicians to create content online, and the winner was Soluto, an application that crowdsources knowledge about PCs to help people who are frustrated and can't figure out how to use their PC. So what did you think of the event? I know you've talked about it a little already, and what do you think you're going to do differently from TechCrunch Disrupt at the launch conference?
Great question. This conference was the majority of the conference was dedicated to existing companies that already were doing stuff. And so what I find is when you have those companies and those big names, Carol Bartz, Tim Armstrong, and then you put little startups next to them, basically, it's just not fair. It's like having somebody who's like a new singer or a pianist come up, and then in between you have Billy Joel and Elton John, and the Stones come up, and then you have Nirvana, their first year of playing together.
Right.
It's just unfair.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they did it to be unfair. They did it because they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, I guess.
Seemed like they just wanted it to be like a huge event.
Yeah, and so the
really
event
drive people.
The event went from 9 a.m. till like 7:30, so it was too long in that way. But overall, you throw a lot of good big names in there. It's going to be exciting. Movie Clips was well executed, and they actually paid to get the rights to the clips.
Wow.
And so I was on the judging panel with them, and I gave them a really hard time trying to get them to, because I wanted them to do well.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get them to talk more about what was unique about their service, because it really was the same service as any clip.
Which was a TechCrunch 50 company.
The year before. So I told them, I said, this presentation was great, but your presentation is great because you have funny clips for movies. So I got to take off the value of that and just look at what what you built. And the core of what you built was very similar to AnyClips. And I know, Tyler, you know this company pretty well, and you know AnyClip pretty well. But what they did do that was unique was they actually paid money and gave a guarantee to get those clips.
Right.
So where any clip didn't get that done, movie clips did. Tyler, what did you think of them?
When I was watching you do the judging from the judging part, it sort of reminded me of eating tacos in a tuxedo.
Brilliant.
It was nice, but there was something odd about it. You know, like it didn't quite feel right because normally you're. I see you do that, you know, behind the stage and in the preparation of the show, but to watch you do it on stage, people are like, holy shit, he's ripping into these people.
Right.
You know, like the tweets were like, this guy's ruthless, but in a very awesome way.
Right.
Like, all the presenters would come off and be like, thank God he was on our panel. He just gave us some of the best feedback, you know.
Yeah, and I had good conversations with John afterwards. But you're right, that usually happened backdoor at the TechCrunch 50 event. So I think the general difference will be, mine will be more like TechCrunch 50. Right. I'm going to stay true to the format.
So more companies presenting and less.
Probably
like,
what I'll do is I'll have just the 50 companies present, and then I'll have maybe 2, max 4 fireside chats with luminaries.
Right.
Lunch and dinner, and call it a day, and let the stars shine, and keep the focus on them.
Well, one thing that was interesting about TechCrunch is that the luminaries were on the panels. They were judging, so you'd have very impressive people.
Yeah.
But they would be there to evaluate other companies, not talk about themselves.
And that's what I liked about it. And
Right.
this was a point of contention between Mike and I and Heather to a certain extent, which was we have all these great people here, and they're just judging, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And they really should be speaking about themselves. And I said, no, that's the point. You know, like you get somebody famous like that, and you have them judge. It shows them off better than talking about yourself. It's like you don't see me on This Week in Startups talking about Mahalo.
Well, you still learn about your perspective
Exactly,
and your insights,
but in a more authentic way. And I think that's the difference. And so it's just nuance. I mean, listen, I'm sure the conference did well financially. These conferences tend to do that. The other main difference will be, I'm going to take 100% of the profits from the launch conference, and I'm going to offer that money with me as the angel investor. So you get me and the money to those companies that launch at the event. So my hope is the event will make a couple $100,000, which is what these kind of things can do. And then I'll be able to put, you know, if they want it, if 20 of the 50 want it, or 10, or if all 50, whatever. But let's say, I don't know, 20 of them seems like a reasonable number, would be raising an angel round after that. And there's $500,000 in profits. Yeah. You know, they can each get $25,000 and have me as an angel investor. And then for me, I won't make the short-term cash, but if I do it for 10 years, I'll have invested in 20 more startups a year. Yeah. It'll take my angel investing from 10 to 30. So that's my way. Because you know, the first way it started was we said, how do we crush demo? We don't charge, and we give a prize. And then the next evolution was give a prize. Yeah. Now I'm saying, don't charge, pay everybody, and invest in them. So I want it to be the best event to launch at and to get angel investors. But the Open Angel Forum is going to come around and dovetail with it. So you'll have all of the 150 angels from Open Angel Forum and growing at the event. Oh, right. And I'm going to have some things I'm not going to announce right now, but there will be some involvement of the Open Angel Forum. I'll leave it at that. Oh. You didn't get to go. I didn't get to. Did you watch any of it?
I watched some. My feeling was it was a different conference than TechCrunch 50, right? The coverage was obviously a little different due to the structure. It was interesting, but it wasn't totally company focused, so you just had a different mindset.
Yeah. None of the companies, and it's not a dig to any of the companies, of the 20 companies that presented, half of them would have made it into TechCrunch 50 and the other half wouldn't have, to be honest. Right. So I think that maybe the field that applied, I don't know if this is because they had a short deadline or the job they did in picking and preparing people, but they didn't push people hard enough, and so.
Right. Yeah, I know that's a big part of the TechCrunch 50 was the pre-show would be
and
like
also
a
big part of the tension between Mike and I. So there were 2 issues between Mike and I. One was there was creative tension. The other one was money. The money one was 100% Mike, had nothing to do with me, because I told him, if you want all the money from the event, I'll just take shares of TechCrunch. I'll convert my entire thing, and I'll join your board and whatever, and own some of TechCrunch. I don't care about the money part of it. On the creative side, we did have tension, and the tension was usually around 2 things. One, should this person be presenting or not? And I think Mike was a lot more forgiving, and I was a lot more extreme on it. Tyler was there for these conversations, and so it was pretty heated at times. where I just said, no, this person can't present. And Mike said, this
Right.
person's presenting. It's my conference. And I said, no, it's half your conference, and we have to work this out together. And the other...
To more to sort of that point, which I think is really interesting, is that you were very concerned with the meritocracy, that
Yes.
nobody gets, I don't care who this person is.
Yes.
It could be Steve Jobs' son. It doesn't matter. If it's not awesome and we both don't like it, it shouldn't get in. And that is why I think that led to a lot of the strength of the events.
I think the creative tension between Mike and I was the reason it was so great. And so my only concern with it is that I may not have that counter.
Sort of a Lennon-McCartney kind of
It had a
thing.
little bit of that Lennon-McCartney
Yin-yang.
kind of a thing. I mean, obviously I was Lennon, more talented.
Right.
Moving on.
Moving on. Well, one more story from TC Disrupt we have to talk about. Probably the biggest story.
Okay.
It happened early on. Yahoo CEO Carol Bartz was being interviewed by Michael Arrington. Arrington challenged Bart's record at Yahoo, compared it unfavorably to Steve Jobs' time at Apple. Bartz responded to Arrington that she had only been at Yahoo 16 months, that he's involved in, quote, a very tiny company. And then she added, and this is a quote, I don't want to hear any crap about something magical that the fine people of Yahoo were supposed to do in this short time, so F off. But she didn't say F off, she said
The F word.
the F word.
Yeah.
Some praise Bartz for her outspokenness and being a rare, unfiltered CEO. What did you think of her response, and did you agree that that was called for?
You know, part of what Mike does, and this was all conjured up by Mike, obviously.
Sure,
it didn't have to go this way. You know,
If a provocateur.
he's being a provocateur,
Yeah.
and so people know that when Mike gets on stage with somebody, there's a pretty good potential this is going to happen, so they show up.
Yeah.
And so it is good that it brings attention to the event. And the only downside is if you lose the opportunity to actually have a really good conversation and get some good information shared with people. And I think that's what happened here, was it got so aggressive so quickly and devolved so quickly that you actually didn't get to have her ask the question. There's a more deft way to do it. And you've seen it here on the program. And you've seen it with, you know, me doing stuff on stage. Fireside chat with Mark Cuban or whatever, or just not right now. I asked him a lot of questions. We got involved in a very good discussion, and then I asked him about Pumpkinhead. And he actually gave us a lot more information about Pumpkinhead than if I just said to him, Mike Arrington's approach is, you know, you're going to tell me what Pumpkinhead is right now, right? But I actually pulled out a pretty good idea of, you know, triangulating the sort of space that's in that nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good nugget. But you felt a little bit more comfortable. Okay,
Sure.
Jason's not a jerk off. He's not going to be a jerk to me, whatever. And if you come out, you know, with the guns blazing, you basically shut the interviewee down. And but anyway, you have to. It's a missed opportunity, and I don't want to say anything bad about Mike, but you know, he there's a lot of strengths. So there are times when he will get a great nugget out of people. He can get good information out of people. So it's just a different technique.
Yeah,
and the
that's his
technique is
tactic.
very. It can, when it spirals out of control, it's brutal, and that's what happened here. But you know what? It becomes the talk of the industry. So he knows that.
He benefited from that overall. I mean, everybody was talking about him that day. Everybody watched that video clip. So yeah.
Yeah. And the only problem with it is I don't know that Carol Bart's ever coming back again. You know, so then you just basically left.
You burn that bridge. Yeah.
Then again, I write about Zuckerberg. I don't think Zuckerberg's ever going to speak at the launch conference, and
If he was smart, he would.
Although he did,
well,
he did invest in
steer
the
in.
open source alternative to Facebook, so
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
anyway, what did you think of it?
The Bart's interview?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a great piece of entertainment.
Yeah, and that pretty sums it up.
I think so. We had a request from the chat room that we actually talk about the new Dig, so I went and
Is it
took a
out?
look. It is not out. There is a video up on YouTube that
Okay.
shows a sort of sneak preview. It's our first real look. There was a twit pic that Kevin Rose sent out that you got like a half view of the screen a couple weeks ago, but this is our first clear look. The big changes. An onboarding process, so it's one of those when you join, you're 40% done, and it encourages you to follow friends, follow your favorite publishers, follow tastemakers, a suggestion that you import your social graph from Facebook and Twitter, a personal section of your homepage called My News, that's all the publishers you favorited and your friends, a top news section that's going to be edited with the biggest stories of the moment, a share feature that's basically like retweet when you dig something, it goes to all of your friends. Publishers can now auto-post all content to Dig via RSS. That's awesome as a content sort of site. And a simplified method for adding a new story. You don't have to go through those like 8 steps to dig something. So it seems like a lot of major updates that deal with some of the major pain points, particularly if you're a publisher. What do you think of these kinds of changes? Is there some major change to Dig you would make that doesn't seem to be on that list?
Kevin explained all this, what he was planning like 6 months ago, and I had a conversation with him. I think the issue they have was people submitting to Dig. The human element there was slowing them down to the point at which Twitter and people retweeting stuff was beating them.
Yeah.
And so that's a big problem. If I go to Dig and everything I see there is stuff that I saw in my tweet stream already.
Which is happening. I mean,
which is happening. And so, but if it's all automatically sucked in, now you've taken out that 5 minutes or 10 minutes it takes for somebody to post it. The chances of the Dig link getting retweeted are greater.
Yeah.
And if they can personalize it, then they might be able to expand the audience because people who go there and see Ron Paul and marijuana and, whatever it is, the Dig audience likes Xbox, it's like, so I wish them well, and it might give them a little boost. I don't know. What do you think?
I used Dig for quite a while, and I'm, impressed with what Kevin built, but it seems like, with the rise of Twitter, they've lost kind of that attention, from a lot of users. So I think it's going to be tough to get the attention back. But I haven't seen a lot of the new stuff. I saw the screenshot like in front of a river. I was like, half
that
dark.
was from like 2 weeks ago, where it was like with the glare and the picture. You
so
could barely see.
It looked interesting. But I'm looking forward to trying it out, and I'd love to use it again.
Yeah.
Next story.
Yep.
So we should talk about the fake BP public relations Twitter account. I've been enjoying this all week. It's at BP Global PR. That's the fake one. The real one, by the way, is
was it BP?
BP Global PR, all one word. Twitter.com.
And Twitter won't take it down.
Twitter's not taking it down.
Genius.
They're at BP_America is the real one. The real one has 7,000 followers. The fake one had over 70,000 last night. I'm sure it's more now.
78,000. Oh my God.
So it's gone up almost 10,000 since I checked it last night. Of course, the oil rig explosion was almost a month ago. It's been an ongoing sort of debacle. They're calling it the largest oil spill in U.S. history. So obviously, this account is getting a lot of attention, except it's offering satirical commentary about the lack of genuine cleanup efforts. It's being written by an anonymous person who's calling themselves Terry. Here's some of my favorites. Barack Obama's angry and frustrated. So are we. This is really cut into our BP Good Times field trip fund. If we had $1 for every complaint about this oil spill, it wouldn't compare to our current fortune. Oil is a lucrative industry. So is this... that's a good one. Is this good satire, or is it too dark considering the catastrophe is ongoing?
No, this is great.
And how are they getting away with this? Why won't Twitter take this down? Doesn't it seem like Twitter takes down these kinds of sites?
If it's so obviously... Yes. So if it's so obviously fake, they don't have a problem with it, and it's not the exact... it's not fake Carol Bartz with the word fake at the start.
Right.
So this is a little bit closer to somebody could be misled, but when you read what a gorgeous day, the ocean is filled with the most beautiful rainbows, you're welcome. I think you pretty much understand that that's not legit. But didn't some people think that it was hacked?
Yes, at first, Ebert, I think it grew out of Ebert tweeted one of their, I think it was like, we can no longer promise that our oil is dolphin safe or something was the tweet. And Ebert retweeted it, and suddenly it got a lot of attention. And there were people who were like, oh my God, somebody hacked British Petroleum, until they found out that there was a real BP account that they just haven't been using
I think humor is a good way to deal with really bad issues like this and to draw attention to them. And really, that these people, I said on my Twitter stream that I think they should kill themselves. And some people got upset at me for saying that. But, there was a time when people would kill themselves if they did something so horrible because they'd be so ashamed of what they did. And these guys are shameless.
Yeah, they really don't
it's
seem...
so clear they don't care.
Yeah, they really don't seem that shaken up even by it.
No sense of urgency.
There was no apology. There was no mea culpa moment. I think that's what we're looking for.
And not only that, just complete incompetence. And then if you look at the events that led up to it, the 60 Minutes piece 2 weeks ago was incredibly powerful when they guys talking about jumping off a 120-foot rig and thinking about his daughter on the way down, and he said it took forever to land, and he lands in the water, and he's covered in oil, and he sees that the oil's on fire, and he's like swimming away for his life, and you realize, wow, people are dying, and then you compound that by millions of other species and life forms in the ocean are dying.
And
And,
it's disgusting. It's really when you see the shots of the wildlife and these marshes that are just brown. I mean, it's just horrifying.
and
It's almost
there's no sense of
inconceivable.
urgency.
Their response has just been just the weakest, right?
it's
and
really-
I read a piece, I think it was in the Times, and if you kind of paraphrase what their CEO was saying, he basically said, "Why did this have to happen to us?
Yeah.
You know, why did this happen to us?" Kind of
Yeah.
like,
I don't know. Let's think
it's
about
like-
that. You did the deepest water drilling ever.
Yeah.
With the least preparation, and then when there were problems, you ignored them and told people to go faster.
Right.
Because they were burning like. I think were they losing like $1 million a day or something?
Yeah.
And so they're yelling at the guy like, "We're losing $1 million a day! Like you just destroyed the whole Gulf.
Yeah,
you
no, it's
destroyed the
like-
Atlantic. We only
I
have."
mean,
it says,
The entire Gulf is just filled with a big pool of oil. We've got bigger problems
I mean,
right now.
the oil's. I mean, really $1 million a day? I mean.
And there was some sort of hatch or something they could have bought that was like $500,000 or something that they could have used when this happened to
I think
cap it. And they didn't.
this is gonna. I think that this should result in criminal charges. And I know that like criminally charging businesses, supposed to be shields and all this kind of stuff. I think that these guys should be taken on criminal charges on a global basis. Every single country that has any type of morality or ethics should take these people to court and bankrupt this company and put them out of business. That's what should happen. Because this is the biggest fuck up. 3:28, 59 minutes, take the F out. This is the biggest fuck up ever in terms of the environment. And this might be one of the biggest fuck ups in the history of. I'm sorry to be cursing about it. I'm infuriated about it. It is so unbelievable. And they should not be allowed to operate a business, these people. You know, like they banned some people from ever trading stocks again? These people should be banned from ever working at a job again, other than like a hot dog stand.
Well, cleaning up. They should get.
Yeah.
They should go clean up and work
go
on
out
the
to be,
beach.
like, on dirty jobs.
Scrubbing
Yeah,
the
put them on
side.
Dirty Jobs.
Yeah,
These guys
Jobs
qualify
for-
to be the co-host of Dirty Jobs. They could work for the guy on Dirty Jobs. I honestly believe that from employee number 1 all the way down to employee number 150, those 150 employees should be banned from ever working in any large corporation again. There's no ramification for doing something so fucked up and getting away with it. It's unbelievable. It should be criminal charges. And Obama is another huge disappointment. You know, when did he come out and get upset about this? Yesterday?
Yeah,
Day 35?
It definitely was a delay. He has that
He's
like
indignant on day 35?
stoic. He always tries to like I can sort of wait this out and not get involved thing. It seems
watching the
like
polls.
it's always like let me see how this is going to play
Such
out.
a politician, you
and
know,
keep
like-
everything. Yeah, he really is. That's his greatest gift is as a Politico. Like
I know, but it's like, weren't you the guy who was running against Drill Baby Drill?
that's true.
And then he
was.
flips right over to Drill Baby Drill. And then now he's saying we have to get off natural energy. Now he's like, so he runs on I'm not the Drill Baby Drill guy. Then he gets in office and he Drill Baby drills.
Right.
Then it gets fucked up. And then what does he do?
Well, now
Now he's
it's-
saying the
now
real
you can't.
solution is we have to do clean energy. It's a
Right.
whole big part of his speech yesterday, which I watched. I mean, it's infuriating. How many times can one guy flip-flop?
Yeah, no, I mean, when he came out after being president and said, like, oh, now we're going to do all this offshore drilling, it really was one of those moments of, well, really? I knew the guy was not as liberal as he was being made out to be, but that was pride. Like, I think we had sort of known that was a bad idea.
There's a very simple solution to our energy problems. It's called nuclear. And nuclear power plants sound scary. They are not. Especially not compared to drilling in the ocean and destroying the ocean.
Well, I mean,
Nuclear is a much safer technology. Go to France, where they've never had an incident, and 90% of the country is powered by nuclear. I rest my case. China, I don't think they've ever had an incident, and China doesn't care about human life. I mean, they'll build a dam out of toothpicks over there. They've never blown up a nuclear thing. I mean, put nuclear reactors. I can put one here on Santa Monica Boulevard. I don't care. Free energy. I'm sorry. Why are you going to bring this? It's a bad topic to bring up because I call these guys terrorists, and I think they really are terrorists. When you have that close negligence,
I mean, this is, I don't want to minimize the lives that are taken for terrorists, but the scale of this is almost unthinkable even for a terrorist organization. Like Al-Qaeda couldn't create destruction on this
Osama bin
level.
Laden right now is so jealous.
Well,
Osama bin Laden's going to kill the BP.
Died. They killed a lot of people, so you don't want to minimize.
I guarantee you
9/11.
right now, Osama bin Laden is trying to figure out how he can model Al Qaeda after BP. He's looking at their management structure and saying, this is the level of debauchery that I need in my organization. This is the level of absolutely not giving a shit about anybody but yourself and your own needs that I need in outside of Al Qaeda.
Right. Well, they are very ideological at Al Qaeda. It's just not our
Yeah, so is
ideology.
BP.
BP is not. It's just money. That's their ideology. It's just
That's a very. Let me tell you
profits.
something. Religion and money. I mean, these are very powerful drivers.
That's true.
Al Qaeda and BP. This is like the merger that I can see BP.
Probably that'll be in the news in 2 weeks.
I see a press conference with Osama bin Laden and the BP CEO, and they can just do a big joint venture of who can terrorize the world more. I mean, it's like the two of them could be James Bond villains in the same James Bond movie. You know, like sometimes they have like a secondary villain.
Right. Well, you think they're the villain, and then you find out there was a villain behind.
Yeah,
the villain.
that's what they should do. They should like the BP guy is probably the guy behind Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Probably works for him. We have to get out of here, right?
We do. We actually have to wrap up because Android starts in a half hour.
Oh, okay. We got one more story.
One more. We have time for one more story. I'll give you a choice. It's one of those where
Please
we got
don't
enough
bring up
left.
BP again.
Nothing with BP.
I'm so upset about this.
We've got a startup called BlockChalk. It's a geolocation kind of one.
Oh, like geolocation startup.
We've got Facebook-related photos, and we've got the Wired iPad app, which I have on this very iPad.
You pick.
Let's talk about BlockChalk.
We'll talk about BlockChalk. It's a startup. They've raised $1 million in seed funding from a variety of investors, including Lotus founder Mitch Kapoor, Battery Ventures founder Collective, Tom McInerney, Delicious founder Joshua Schachter, and many of the founders are actually from Delicious. BlockChalk produces an iPhone app that allows you to leave notes for other users around your neighborhood. So if you're in your neighborhood and you want to let somebody know where to get good gelato, or your kitten got lost, or there's anything like that, you can leave a message. It's known as a chalk, and then other people who are using that app in the same area, it'll just pop up onto their screen. So it could be useful, all kinds of like a good hole-in-the-wall restaurant you want to recommend or that sort of thing. But it's one of those things that's only really good if a lot of people in the neighborhood are using it. So how do you overcome, if you're BlockChalk, that chicken egg? The app needs a big community in order to work, but you have to build up that community by giving them something really great.
Yeah. You launch it in a small area with a dozen mavens. Postabon, the company I was talking about, which is doing deals, sort of geolocation for deals, they're getting 500 to 700 deals inside of New York. They're only doing New York, and they take all those people out to dinner once a month if they get a certain number of deals in the system or something like that. It's basically curating mavens, which This Next did. We do here at Mahalo.
Right.
It's a sort of classic, start small, reach critical mass, and then launch to other cities. I mean, Foursquare rolled out like that, right? They were just only available in like 8 cities.
Yeah, well, they did. It was just at South by Southwest, and then they went to like 4 or 5 cities, and then they broadened.
Yeah, so you spent a slow rollout. And Josh Schechter is a smart guy. He told me about this one earlier. It's very similar to ToneShi in a way.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of ToneShi, which was at TechCrunch 50 2 years ago, I guess.
Right, and that was with augmented reality.
Right, but there's no reason this can't happen.
Right, this could be the same way.
I'm guessing it's going to be the same way. And even if it's not, if it's just like, here's a list of all the things close to you. The other problem with this is getting the spam out of the system and sort of the knuckleheads, because let's face it, this is what Twitter has this, right? They're geocoding tweets. So if I were to pull up all the tweets within 10 blocks of this, what's the relevancy?
Yeah, a lot of them would be just stuff you don't care about, or I'm going to a party.
But to Josh's credit, with the tagging system in Delicious, they were like, if you're using Delicious to get 30 people to vote for something to get on the Delicious popular list, we're going to deactivate your accounts from your votes. They basically would neuter your votes, he told me.
It happened to me.
Yeah, so they neuter your votes, and so
I've been neutered.
And then what they would say is, this is not the purpose of Delicious. Delicious is for you to personally bookmark your
They're
bookmarks.
actually very, like, all
they're
the
militant.
bookmarking sites say that, but Delicious is the only one that really follows through. Where it's like, if you're using this to promote, you're gone.
Right, it's not for promotion. It's for you to keep your book. And if 30 people happen to bookmark, an article on TechCrunch and it gets to the top list, that's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. That's fine. That's the point. So if these are the same guys, I think they're going to keep it under control. It sounds like a small win to me that you could build on.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people, and they were saying this in the chat room too, it could theoretically be a feature that you add on to something like Yelp or Gowalla or Foursquare, all these other sort of check-in, neighborhood-based sites. So I think they're going to have to come up with something to make this more of a go-to kind of destination as opposed to something, an add-on
I just got word, breaking news story, Jesus has just checked into the Santa Monica Apple Store.
Really?
Yeah.
Right down the street.
Right down the street.
Walking distance.
This is the fake Jesus on... Did
Oh,
you see
at Jesus, is that him?
There's at Jesus on Twitter.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I follow at Jesus. I'm not. They're asking how many chat room. We actually have a little monitor.
Oh,
with the
we have
chat
a
room
monitor
up.
now here.
So I'm not mentally connected to the chat room.
In housekeeping, thank you to Power VPS for providing fully managed virtual private hosting servers, great customer service at a great price, $59 a month. You got to put your stuff in the cloud. You don't want to be managing all these servers. It's a lot of work. It's not worth it. And Twist viewers get 25% off, not for this year, not for next year, for life. Get in there. Make sure you claim the code because I don't know how long they're going to do it. Just put the discount code TWIST in, TWIST. In other startup news, we have the startup meetup happening on June 8th at 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Pacific time. So wherever you are, you should plan your meetup to coincide with that.
Wait, what time is it?
6 p.m.
Oh,
our time in
9
Santa Monica.
p.m.
So if you're on the East Coast, you should have the meetup overlap with 9 p.m. so you can watch the show. We do have some international, like in Shanghai, China, they're getting one together. So those people, it's probably going to be crazy hours if they want to be on the show. But we'd love to have everybody. Amazing response so far.
I have it right here. There's 152 meetups have been scheduled.
Yeah, which is just,
152 locations, which is absurd.
When they got meetup.com wrote us an email and said, hey, here's our new system. We'd love you guys to check it out. And I thought, this will be fun. We'll get,
8 cities.
We'll get 5 or 6 groups together and we'll have a little fun discussion. And I had no idea it was going to be international.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I mean, we have at least a dozen cities with over 10 people already.
Right.
And so these are going to grow.
And we were going to say, if you have over 10 people, we will check in with you live during the show.
So that's going to be the format of the show. There's not going to be a guest. I'm going to basically go to each city, and then I'm going to talk to an entrepreneur in each city about their business.
Right. And so we're I'm in touch already. I think 16 of the cities have already reached out to me, and I sent them some, here's what we're looking for, here's how to set up your Skype. So if you are hosting in another city, let me know, lon@thisweekend.com, and I will coordinate with you. We'll work out getting you on the show, and try to get 10 or more people on there, because those are the cities we're going to prioritize during the show.
Want to be a guest on Ask Jason or the Shark Tank? Just visit tinyurl.com/askjason or tinyurl.com/JasonSharkTank. All one word. Fill out the form, and you will be on the air. This Week in Android coming up next at 4 p.m. right after this show, and This Week in Venture Capital, 2 p.m. Wednesdays. We should really have This Week in Venture Capital be after my show. That's a tighter
I was thinking
integration.
It would work. It's just, Mark Sister is the host of that one. His schedule is sometimes tricky. He's a very
Why doesn't he
busy
do
man.
Fridays at Fridays? At 12, and they could lead into my show.
I have suggested to him we are working behind the scenes on that.
We got to build the power hour out.
Because we're working on, and this is top secret insider information we haven't announced yet, we're working on making Friday a sort of entrepreneurial tech block, and then Sunday an entertainment block.
Right.
So more to come on that. But
Yeah.
we got Kevin Pollak's show as the anchor on Sunday.
Right. And all of the This Week in Casting Call went well?
This Week in Casting Call went amazing. If you go to This Week in Casting on our site, thisweekend.com, you can actually watch we've got the whole video up.
And have we followed up with all those people?
I've not followed up with all of them. I followed up with
good ones.
8. We picked out 8.
8, wow.
Between you, me, and Kevin that we decided were the cream of the crop. I've been in touch with all of those people. Many of them we're actually workshopping pilots with right now. Next week and the week after, we've got 4 pilots shooting.
Wow, moving quickly.
Very quickly.
All non-tech shows.
They were great. I mean, we were overwhelmed by how many great people we had come in with great ideas.
Tim Young, founder and CEO of Socialcast, congratulations on all your success.
Thanks.
Keep crushing it. Spend that money wisely. And please be less boring in your office.
Sure.
If you could get a scooter or something like that.
Of like a zip line or
A
something.
zip line or something like that.
Sure.
What can you do in your office? It's like such a crazy question.
Yeah.
I had to ask because it's just so crazy.
Sure.
And keep us apprised as to what happens with Pumpkinhead. Do you have a launch date or a time frame? Is it going to be next year?
I think, everyone in the team has kind of done this before in terms of launching a product, and we're kind of taking the Blizzard Entertainment approach, which is we'll launch it when we're ready, but we'll have an alpha coming, very soon.
Oh, very soon.
Very soon.
We can launch
We'll
at the
let you
launch
know.
conference, February 2011. Might be too far away. If you want to come to the launch conference, you can do that by watching 10 of these shows live. So if you watch 10 shows live, check in with Roberta, who's I think her handle is
This week is her in the
this
chat.
week in the chat room. She'll say hello to you in the chat room. Check in with her and do a tweet that says, I want to come to thelaunchconference.com. Pound twist.
Do it.
Yeah, thelaunchconference.com. on Twist.
TheLaunchConference.com. I
Yeah,
know
so
there was confusion in the
No,
chat
no,
room.
the launch conference. Is there somebody has the domain launch
Yeah,
conference?
and it's
but-
like crummy, spammy. Don't go there. TheLaunchConference.com.
the launch conference. Yeah, just somebody's got a placeholder set.
Yeah.
Tyler, thanks for the insight. Tacos in a tuxedo.
Eating tacos in a tuxedo. We're getting the shirts printed up.
I think
right
that
now.
I'm trying to figure out if the taco is like, it's. We'll talk about it offline.
Metaphorical.
I'm trying to. I think it means
the tuxedo is classy and helpful, and the taco is
mess.
low rent and messy and gonna mess up your tuxedo. So he's saying it's a clash. You got good. You take the good with the bad, right? Am I right?
It's not an ideal, but at the same time, it's very complex. This one, it's like an onion.
Really, this is a
Because
way Homer.
when you're out of context with a food style like that, like a taco and a tuxedo, it actually makes you focus on the quality of the taco that much more. You notice this?
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about all the times I've eaten tacos and tuxedos before. Trying to.
right?
I think I understand.
Just ponder this one over the weekend. We'll get
Yeah.
back to it next
Everybody
week.
have a great holiday weekend. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.